Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon, Trudy.
Okay, did you see Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre on Tout le monde en parle last night? What were your impressions?
I did, and I got to say, this is now a required passage if you want to win in Quebec ever since the legendary Jack Layton appearance back in 2011, which is credited with the Orange Wave in Quebec, the now legendary Orange Wave in Quebec that occurred 2 weeks after that appearance on Tout le monde en parle. I got to say, first of all, let's start with Mark Carney. What's interesting about Mark Carney in Quebec right now, as the polls stand, the Liberals have a 20-point lead in Quebec over the Bloc and the Conservatives. Think about that. We've never seen that in the best times of the Trudeau years. And the thing is that in French Quebec, and you've seen this, I'm sure, is that everybody keeps saying, well, Mark Carney's French isn't very good. So when he announced he was running for the Liberal leadership, he did a French debate, and everybody was saying his French is not very good. Then he did a big interview with Patrice Roy, the Radio-Canada news anchor, and everybody said, well, his French is not very good. And then he did a big interview at a special program on Radio-Canada called Les Chefs, where all the leaders were interviewed by three Radio-Canada political anchors. And then again, they said, well, his French wasn't very good. And yesterday, his French wasn't very good, Trudy. But you know what? Quebecers, Francophones, don't care. And even though Yves-François Blanchet last week said very clearly that Mark Carney doesn't like Quebec, doesn't know Quebec, doesn't understand Quebec, well, I know for a fact that a lot of sovereignists, PQ voters, Bloc voters, are going to vote Liberal this time around because the most important question is we need an adult in the room. And Mark Carney, especially with women, not just Quebec women across the country, there's a huge gender gap on all the major issues. But what was interesting yesterday is that the one key thing is because we knew there was going to be a trap question. There always is during those interviews. And when Guy Lepage, the host, asked him, well, it wasn't him, but when Mark Carney was asked, Guy Lepage, what legendary Quebec comedy troupe was the host part of? And the answer, of course, is Roch et Belles Oreilles. He got it right.
Well, that's good, because I would have said tête à claque. But
well, there you go. But he was well prepped, and he got it right. And this morning, what's the clip that's going around in all the French media is that clip. The other one that's rolling, he was asked, how are you different than Justin Trudeau? And remember during the U.S. campaign, that's one of the failings of Kamala Harris, right? She couldn't find a difference between her and Joe Biden. You remember that, Trudy?
Yes.
And so when he was asked that yesterday, he had a very good answer, very thoughtful. And he said, you know what? Justin Trudeau just didn't care as much about the economy as I do. And he said it in a very professorial tone, and it worked. Now, to Pierre Poilievre was the softer, gentler Pierre Poilievre. He was not at all confrontational, not at all, angry, the slogans, everything that we know now of Pierre Poilievre. He was really trying to show another side. In French, they were talking about his côté givré, like the shredded wheat ads, the sugar side, the frosted side, the non-frosted side. Pierre Poilievre tried to show his frosted side last night, and it kind of went okay. But when he was asked by the co-host about, well, aren't you just a mini Trump? And instead of really trying to differentiate himself from Trump, where he went towards, well, my origins are very modest, and he went to his personal narrative and contrasting it with Trump, where saying, well, Trump was wealthy and came from a rich background. I don't think that went off as well. I don't think Quebecers wanted to hear that. type of differentiation. The other thing that he tried to do, he did talk about his wife a lot, and again, he's very conscious of having a gender gap, but he tried to make a joke through it. He's saying, well, my wife really wants to meet Kevin Parent, a very well-known Quebec singer. But the problem is that referencing Kevin Parent was embroiled in a kind of a Me Too scandal a few years ago. And I don't think that was, the best reference to make if you want to, try to bridge a gender gap with Quebec women.
Yeah, that they should have dug another, did a bit more research and dug out another name.
So. Yeah, exactly. I think there's a staffer somewhere that didn't quite finish up his research.
Looking ahead to the debates this week, the topic list is out now for the French because it's different topics for the first French debate and then the English debate. Which topics are you going to be paying the most attention to?
Well, I think obviously the main topic is going to be about identity for the French, and so you're going to see the goon side of Yves-François Blanchet trying desperately, because right now the Bloc is in complete disarray. Nothing is working right now with the Bloc campaign. They're in danger of losing 10 to 20 seats right now in Quebec, and so this is serious, and so you're going to see a lot of attacks from Yves-François Blanchet on towards Mark Carney about Quebec issues. We're going to hear about Bill 96, Bill 21. Mark Carney's answers are going to have to be much shorter. He's going to have to be well coached to get to the point, because in a debate format you don't have as much time. For Pierre Poilievre, it's really about trying to talk about the Trump factor, because that is the number one issue. And in all the polls, who's best equipped to deal with Trump? I mean, Mark Carney has sometimes a 40-point advantage on Poilievre. And right now he's a distant third in Quebec. And so he's going to have to try to get on the map. But it's really going to be about, will Yves-François Blanchet be able to get under his skin? But again, talking about the French debate as being so important, obviously it is. But we're starting to vote on Friday. Advanced polling begins this Friday, Trudy. So, and the polling has been quite stable, and everybody's waiting for some sort of Biden moment with Carney and his French, and he hasn't made that critical mistake. And so if he can stay on the safe side, shorten up his answers, get to the point, not get caught up in long explanations where he can make more of these mistakes, and doesn't get put off his game by the attacks from Yves-François Blanchet, he should be fine. But let's remember, in 2021, Trudy, it wasn't the French debate that affected the Quebec federal landscape. It was the English debate and the Saatchi Curl question.
Oh, yeah.
Which changed everything, because the Conservatives were actually ahead of the Bloc and the Liberals were cruising towards victory. And it was the Saatchi Curl question to Yves-François Blanchet on Bill 21 and Bill 96 that switched everything and created the scandal that allowed the Bloc to actually almost surpass the Liberals back in 2021. And a lot of people say that question prevented a Liberal majority government.
Wow.
And so if things stand, I know it's a big if, anything can happen in these debates, but right now, I mean, the lead seems so insurmountable in Quebec. And the fact is that the Bloc doesn't have anything to say to the what is currently the ballot question. Is how can Yves-François Blanchet do a better job than Mark Carney to stand up to Donald Trump? And I'll end on this very quickly. Yesterday, on the French side, the Liberals launched a French ad. I don't know if you saw it. You remember Léa Streliski, who is a comedian in French Quebec. She's the one that does the kind of discussion. You know the Mike Myers conversation with Mark Carney? Well, Leah Strelitzky is talking with Mark Carney, and they're having coffee. And she is, late 30s, early 40s, mother of three. She works, of course, she's known. And the question to Mark Carney is, didn't you go to Harvard? And Carney says, yeah, I went to Harvard. In economy, right? And he says, yeah, in economy. Yeah, I don't know anything about the economy. I think this is really important this time around. And that's basically the gist of the commercial. And the ad is running on social media, on linear TV as well. But it shows you the target audience for the liberals, the urban, suburban, working mother. That right now is the big play for the liberals, the big switch in Quebec. Even these women that voted PQ or voted Bloc before, they're voting Liberal this time around. And unless something dramatic happens this week, the Bloc is going to try to throw everything on identity politics, but it's still not sticking.
David Heurtel, thanks as always for your insights.
Great to talk to you, Trudy. Take care.
You too.